between what we are all saying, just like you said there was.
Yeah. Thank you. You had a question? Identify yourself, John.
John Dennison, and my question for the panel is it possible to set up a parallel economic system to operate separately from the existing markets that could either cross national borders or work within for communities within a national border? And if so, how would you go about setting that up so that if the inevitable collapse that you're talking about does happen, then something already in place that's ready to start running, so that you don't have to just wait and try to pick up the pieces later?
You can't.
Well, I think Rick was going to answer.
Yeah, just quickly. During the Depression, there were over 300 communities that had set up their own currencies. And there are communities that are doing that today. Now, you can only go so far with it because you can't create a local currency or a local barter system or a local labor trading system and buy a Ferrari with it, you know, because but you can do certain things, and I think a lot of communities are doing that, including certain rural communities, and there's a whole movement to do that I think you've got to do in some instances when the overall economy is failing. But it's not a replacement for a major economic reform, but on a national level. But if I could just add one thing about the previous question by the gentleman who left here. If there's somebody who really wants to organize something, I wrote an article for the Economy in Crisis website a few months ago advocating the creation of a national debtors union to advocate for monetary reform, for all of the kinds of reforms that are needed just in the simple system of usury in the debt system, credit card rates, for example. And just think about it. I mean, how many people are in debt in the United States? 200 million? If you got 10 million people to join a national debtors union to pay $10 a year in dues, you would have an enormous, powerful lobbying organization that could make changes and could make inroads into the political system. I think I'm not an organizer, you know, I'm a writer, but if somebody really wanted to know what to do to make a difference, form a national debtors union, set up an office to lobby the political system for these kind of changes.
Okay, well, William Cram was going to respond to this before, and John wanted
to... let me complete what with white people, you become strange. So I spend too much time with capitalists because as I listened to this panel, I said, gee, if I could get a recording of this, I would sell it to all of the students in studying economy because these are the most exciting classes on economy they will have. I will become a millionaire. That's just a joke. But 3 questions sort of the people have gone. Who will bail the cat? Is one of our speakers. 3 more questions to go together. Why no more schemes, Ponzi schemes, as you're talking about the mortgage thing? What about the bottom feeders they're talking about? And don't the bottom feeders, if they are successful, why would that not gather more power, more money to those who already have it by taking the ends or the bottom of the mortgage crisis? Am I being clear? Well, why shouldn't they, when they buy them up, then they will accrue greater wealth? Because if the economy doesn't fold totally, then these people will, again, control a larger amount of the economy. And finally, we have so much reference in here to this grand document. And I say, how did this document come about? And we have to consider all of these things. Thank you.
Well, I can't answer all your questions, but I will say one thing that's very, very important for anyone who's thinking about these issues to remember. Wealth is only produced by work. Wealth is only produced by the application of energy to resources. You can pile debt upon debt, promissory note on promissory note. It all comes back sooner or later to somebody doing the work of transforming the resources of the earth, the sun, the sky, the water into a usable service. The only way it'll stop is the person who the financial system is preying upon or is a parasite upon, taking their wealth that they're creating through work and saying, that's enough. I'm not going to do it anymore. That's what will stop it. They'll take everything from you until you've got nothing left. Then they'll look to take it from someone else. So where it stops, where the buck stops, is with the man or the woman who does the work. And that's each and every one of us.
Thanks. Can I ask a question about bell and cats?
Okay, then you can.
I gave you the cat.
And I'll bell the cat.
Hi, and my name's Joe Fay. This question is really for Richard. It seems to me you've given us the tool for starting the revolution, and that's to create our own banks. Is that impossible for us to do? I mean, we have a bunch of predator banks out there right now, and the tool they're using against us is money, or the weapon they're using against us is money. Shouldn't we turn this back on them?
Yes.
Is it impossible for us to create a bank?
Well, one of the speakers said this morning, and I was talking to somebody, how many people control the financial system? We just had a book come out by this Rothkopf guy. He says there's 6,000 people who rule the world. Well, one person I talked to, I was on a radio show the other night. I don't know if you know Jeff Rentz. We were discussing this. I was on his show, and we discussed it. And Jeff said, no, I think there's 300. And I said, well, okay, so there's 300 of them and there's 6 billion of us. So, what's the next step?
What is involved in setting up a bank?
I think, again, that it needs organization, and that's why I suggested a National Debtors Union. A National Debtors Union of 10 million members who pay $10 a year in dues, creating a $100 million a year budget. I mean, I worked for a Treasury agency. They got a lot of work done on a $200 million a year budget. A $100 million a year budget, what you could put in place for that could change the world. It takes organization, but it can be done, and it's not that many people.
This makes a lot more sense than starting a militia.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Want me to, you want to